Hello and welcome to another collaboration between NorCal Cycling Photos on YouTube and the Gas Station Food Cyclist. Today we're coming at you with the 2018 Cats Hill Classic presented by Mike's Bikes, Criterium in downtown Los Gatos, California. This race is an absolute classic. I can't stress this enough. I used to come to this race as a kid with my parents, growing up not too far away from Los Gatos. And I remember seeing my first instance of road rash there. On the right-hand turn into the downhill along the park, I saw a breakaway rider totally beef it, and his butt turned into hamburger meat. And my dad pointed at me and said, "Christopher, if you ever race bikes, you will have road rash, and you will definitely break your collarbone at some point." Had lots of road rash. I'm knocking on wood right now on the other part. Okay, so this race is an absolute classic. A little background before we start the video. Greg LeMond won this race in 1978. He's pretty cool, right? I think we can all agree. He's an absolute legend. Bill Watkins, we got Fred Markham, we got Ron Kiefel, we got Dylan Casey, former U.S. Postal Service writer, Derek Bouchard-Hall. I believe that's the current USA Cycling president. That's pretty cool. Eric Wohlberg, who has the coolest car in the Continental Pro Cycling caravan. Jonas Carney, also with Rowley. I think he's with Rowley Cycling still. Ben Jocks Main, also a former winner. Daniel Martin, also a former winner. Nate English, James LaBerge, Dan Holloway, Ben Jocks Main, 2014 also. And then Tobin Ortenbald with the double, 2015, 2016, and Sam Passetti last year. 2018 winner to be revealed. So watch, and we'll find out who. Yeah, so this race is super important in Northern California. It's been around forever. When you look at pictures of Greg LeMond racing this race back in the day, there's still the same cracks in the road. I don't know what's up with Los Gatos, the road department or Caltrains. So you look at, there's like this, on one of the sections, I'll point it out. There's a section of the road that it has this awful crack in it. And there's this picture of LeMond racing it and winning it in a Della Santa kit, and the same crack of the road is there. And then that's pre-1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. So think of all those cracks existing for since the dawn of time, since this race started. And then the 1989 earthquake happens, and you have so much, and then you have wear and tear over the years on top of it. Before we get too much further, I'd like to do a shout-out to our sponsors. Once again, Tarun Pizzeria in downtown Palo Alto and their sister restaurant, Italico. But let's also do a shout-out to another one of our gracious sponsors for Tarun Elite Cycling, Tifosi Optics. Tifosi Optics is a great brand. They make Schnookums glasses. They have ample coverage. I say this as someone with like huge eye sockets that are just like deep pits of like blackness and sorrow, and like, oh God, I have a really hard time finding sunglasses. But Tifosi not only makes sunglasses for someone like me that needs super coverage for their eyes, but they also make sunglasses for everyone, all different shapes, all different sizes, lots of great options, very economical, super durable, great styling. So yeah, check out Tifosi Optics, a great sponsor of Tarun Elite Cycling. So here we go. We're going to start out with the race now. And you could just see the cracks in the road. Oh gosh. So it's like that concrete that's kind of like just sectioned and just cracked already. It's got splits in it already that add a little bit of, but then you add like earthquakes and being in one of the most seismically active parts of California. We're talking like maybe 15 miles away from the epicenter of the 89 Loma Prieta earthquake. All right, so that corner back there on the right, and this corner coming up right now, you notice this new black spot. That's totally new. That new corner pavement kind of took some. This is where the death crack is on the left, right on the other side of Bobby for Oak Valley. That new black tar pavement was great, kind of cool, kind of fun to hop over. All right, we're going up into the hill. I think it's 23, maybe 25% gradient, and look at Jeff's power spike. His heart rate's rising too. He's doing like 900 watts. He crested over it, and look, he still has to keep going at like 600 watts at this false flat at the top. Right about here, it finally dips down. This is the Cat's Hill. This is the hill of the cat. Los Gatos meaning cat in Spanish. If you don't know that already. On the left, we got a Team Zwift rider. On the left, we also have Alto Vela rider and then a Dolce Vita rider in front of him. This race is going to be kind of difficult for me to narrate with all the names because they split it up between the Cat 1s and the Cat 2s, which, when I was a Cat 2, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, they're splitting the field. That way points are divvied up differently, yada, yada, yada. I never benefited from that because I'm a thick boy, and this race is hard enough for me to do and finish on my own, let alone, like, the thought of getting points in it was just, like, totally inconceivable. Never, ever, ever benefited from that. Now, as a Cat 1 doing race commentary, I'm narrating it, and I'm kind of annoyed that they split the field because it's hard for me. I have like multiple tabs open for race results right now. I feel like that's kind of ridiculous. But that's just my commentary. I don't know how much promoters think about individuals going onto YouTube. Anyways, really glad this race still exists, and the promoters do a great job with this race. A little bit smaller turnout this year than in previous years. Saw some comments on Strava saying that it's not what it used to be. I don't know. This race is still what it used to be. It's still really, really hard. Justin Thompson for Trunali just coming up on the left. He's going to put in a dig right here. He's a hitter. He gets up hills really well. If you don't know who Justin Thompson is, he's the doctor. He's a former hitter at the junior level, did some World Cups in mountain biking and cyclocross, decided to become a doctor of all things, and then came back to racing later in life. So he's got legs. Justin Thompson, he's got legs, and he's also a really good dude. Looks like we have Timmy Bauer on the left for Oak Valley. We got Team Swift right here. I'm going to need you to check which rider that is. On the right, we got a Davis rider. This field, so this was a busy weekend in crits. Northern California had Cat's Hill. Southern California had Dana Point on Sunday. And then, of course, the USA Crit Series was going down with Spartanburg and then Athens. So Cliff wasn't really represented here. They were all out at Athens. A lot of the Mark Pro, I had no Mark Pro riders here. They were all at Dana Point. And then a few Mike's Bikes riders showed up for this race. A lot of them were preparing for Wente Road Race on Sunday. But we have Jason Saltzman of Avolo. I've been watching the USA Crit Series, and I'm finally learning how to pronounce their name. Thanks, Frankie Andreo, for that one. So Jeff's coming to the front. I like how he rode that corner. I think that was the best way to ride that corner. He's putting in a pretty serious dig. His heart rate's getting up there. Jeff sent me notes on this one once again. He says this was a probing attack because the pace slowed down and was just at the front. Guaranteed gap. And he's going up the hill. And watch that power spike. He's giving it. He's giving it good. Doing it live. And still, Justin Thompson comes right around him as a counter, like a boss. Look at the gap go on that. Holy moly. And riders are realizing that this is a threat. This was a good 1-2 punch by the Turin boys here on this one. I was in this race. I was not anywhere near the front. I did zero help. I tailgunned this for the life of me to hold on dearly. I wish I could have helped Justin and Jeff on this one, but just it wasn't going to happen. I'm going to call myself out on this one. I rode like shit. Jeff and Justin, always on point every time they show up to a race. Really good inspiration for me to do better. So now Jeff's just covering. He's right on this Davis rider's wheel, whose name is escaping me right now, which is unfortunate. So they're all chasing single file right now. There was kind of a crack in the road, or like a soft landing pad in the road with cracks on either side, and they were all just riding on. I'll point it out the next time around or eventually. There's so many things just watching this that I'm like, my mind's going a mile a minute right now, and I'm trying to think about everything to talk about. Loving the cornering that they're doing at the front of the race. Obviously at the back, tail gunning it, I didn't have as optimal of line choice, which was unfortunate. Coming right up on the crack of death right there, that Davis rider just swinging to the right. You can't really see it in the video. Maybe you can't. Oh, looks like we got a Mike's rider countering. Got Jason Saltzman, and then we have a rider in all black with a ton of specialized gear who I don't know who his name is. Another huge dig, people coming around. Looks like we have two Alto Vel riders there, Dolce Vita. Jeff just kind of coasting it around to this corner. Still having to put in quite a bit of effort, though. Look at that heart rate in comparison to the power. Cycle Sport moving up on the fold. Field getting a little more strung out. This was a fun corner. Look at that. Look at that cornering right there. Even on the downhill, you were kind of on the rivet. Just as shown by that special. That was a good corner by that specialized rider. Once again, really going to have a hard time with names in this race. Oh, look, coming onto the landing pad. So you can see all those cracks of death to right and to the left going into the finish line, and then it disappears shortly after. That's a real soft spot that if you could ride, it was an optimal call. So the race got kind of strung out. Riders wanting to take that smooth landing pad line through the finish, stringing out the race quite a bit. Coming up on the corner, overshooting it, having to hop that gap of death in one of the easier spots to do it. Coming up into the bottom of the hill, once again, 23% gradient. Can't really tell in this footage if riders are doing it in the big ring or a little ring. It's just all mumble jumble to me. So much bike shaking. Look at how much power Jeff's having to put out just to get over that crest of that one. Yeah, this hill is a real pain. If you do it any other day of the week, if you just show up to that hill and you try to ride up it, you're going to have a hard time. By virtue of it being a crit and you're entering it at however many miles an hour, full blast, and then hooking that corner, You're able to get up at riding into the gutters on the left, Timmy Bauer. Looks like we have some Mike's riders coming to the front. 1, 2, 3, and then we have is that Justin Thompson up on the left? I can't tell. I think that's Justin. Just waiting to see what happens. Don't know. Can't really tell who's off the front. There were some throws off the front. Eventually we'll get to. So Jeff's just coming up right on Justin's wheel. Justin really riding on the limit of that landing pad, which I'm going to refer to it as the landing pad from hence on forth. This sort of the stretch, I was having to do a lot of work tail gunning right here. It looks like Jeff was able to rest a little bit more. Greg McCulloch coming up on the inside. Greg, I hope I pronounced your last name right, but on the group ride tonight, you referred to me as Chris Beal, and I don't know who Chris Beal is. Chris Beal sounds like a pretty shady character to me. I, on the other hand, Christopher Bell, I think I'm a pretty decent human being, but we'll let the village decide that one. Coming into this corner, Jeff taking the outside line. Look at the fans spectating. It was great. It's always great doing this race with the fans. I used to come out here when I was a kid and cheer on riders. It's cool seeing young kids in the neighborhood come out. A little bit smaller crowds as compared to last year. That house party at the bottom of the hill still was going on. I think that house party's been going on for a number of years, so that was pretty cool to see. Jeff just coming up to the front, the pointy end of things. Team Swift just staying attentive. I need to figure. I think that is actually Luke Lampretti from Team Swift. If not, it's Isaiah Chess or Gianni Lampretti. So Luke and Gianni Lampretti both in this race for Team Swift. Sorry with the names. I'm going to have a hard time on this one. Once again, reg sheets all split up. Don't really have good numbers for identifying. All you Mike's Bikes riders, you all look the same anyways. Yeah. Going into the landing pad, having to do a little more power here, a little more work, kind of a gap going. This is kind of an attack. See where this ends up. I can't tell who that. I think that's Robert Skinner in the all black with the way too long of socks. Called out. If I could take a pair of scissors to those things, I would. There's this great GCN video where Heinrich Hausler, who's pretty baller, he talks about, Jeff's just going right over that grate right there, going into the bottom of the hill. Anyways, Heinrich Hausler talking about appropriate sock length. Jeff coming up. Kind of looking around. I don't know if he's looking around or if he's just not hitting it as hard this time. It's hard. This hill's hard. I don't think you really have the fortune of being able to take it half-assed. Kind of letting that pop go. Anyways, Heinrich Hausler talking about proper sock length. Robert, your socks are too long. Sorry. Field coming back together. We got a Muscle Milk rider there. I think that is what Muscle Milk rider is that? I can't tell. Whoops. Sorry. Totally lost track there. I totally just faded out. So if you're watching this, Sorry, whatever happened in the last 30 seconds. Jason Saltzman kind of bumping Jeff out of that lane. Jeff popping back onto that lane. That's actually kind of a thing that was like definitely going down. Jeff's at the pointy end of affairs, but back where it was a little more crowded. Definitely riders were kind of fighting for that prime position on the landing pad. Then getting through the rough stuff, swinging left, and then coming to this inside corner and just hitting it right over that weird, soft tar stuff that like you kind of had grip on, you kind of didn't have grip on, doing it all over again. I tried to take it to the point where I didn't have to go so far left that I went over the crack death. Looks like they were able to come back over it all right. But, man, I've seen people eat it in that crack too many times. I stay away from it. But I'm also not winning this race. Jeff! Putting out the power. Holy moly. You know, still only going like 12, 14, you know, like how much power you have to do to get over that hill is immense. Really makes this race hard. We got a rider and a kid. I don't know who that is. He just kind of put a dig in. It looks like we're catching a Dolce Vita rider. And in the notes it says something about a Dolce Vita rider coming up. Don't know who that is. That might be Cooper. That might be Virgilio. I'm not sure. Jeff kind of coming to the front of things, into the downhill. Look on the left how the road just kind of veers in and they have all those pads. That was actually kind of difficult getting around. And then you want to veer around them, and then you want to come back as far left as possible. You know, maybe ride into the gutter a little bit so you can have the full opportunity to just totally bomb that corner, come right onto the landing pad just like Jeff did. That is how you take that corner. Perfect example. If people are watching this in a year from now, they're like, oh, I need to prepare for Cat's Hill. What's the proper way to take that downhill into the straightaway? That's how you do it. Take notes. Jeff putting on a clinic while I'm tail gunning and dying at the back. Shout out to my mom who came all the way over from Santa Cruz to watch this and cheer me on and watch her son just tail gun the living daylights out of a crit. Jeff, unfortunately, crossing over the crack of death, coming back over to the other side. He's kind of doing some work. Looks like we have a Dolce Vita rider followed by Specialized, Muscle Milk, and then Team Smike's Bikes, and then I think that's another Muscle Milk rider coming up that hill. Still having to do loads of power. Looks like there's a little bit of a gap. Jeff's going to try to, he's going to try to close it down. We got that Team Swift rider coming up on the left. I think that might be Luke. Just able to, ditching a bottle there. That's a pretty cool one. I didn't see anyone taking feeds during the race, but don't know if that's for weight purposes or maybe he'd already drained it. Got some lovely local Los Gatans sitting on their stoop. They're watching the race. Coming into the dive bomb downhill. And taking that corner. Let's see, Jeff. He's on the outside. He's going to slot back right in. That's perfect example of how, oh, okay, so you were able to cross over at certain points. I don't know if he's going to attack. Those Team Swift Bianchi bikes are pretty schnookums, IMHO. Celeste, I've never been a big fan of Bianchi, but I like those. Mike's just coming around Jeff. Jeff really doing a lot of work in this crate, more so than I was able to notice at the back. Didn't really realize he was at the pointy end of affairs so much. Yeah, just up there. It's specialized. It's Muscle Milk. Cycle Sport. I forget, what are they called nowadays? They used to be Muscle Milk. Now they're Cycle Sport Specialized, presented by Muscle Milk. Coming up that hill once again. Is Justin going to make a move? I think he made a move pretty soon. Yeah, Justin Sambacetti for KHS, former winner of this race. Everyone's chasing. Justin Thompson just made a move. They realized the threat. They're coming to the fold. Look at the motobike already going downhill. There's a slight gap. Jeff's just going to ride this one, slot back in, let the other teams do the chasing, being ready to counter. Just chilling out back there while others start chasing. He'll let this gap go. He's not, super worried about it or anything. Timmy Bauer's super worried about it, and he's going to come around Jeff, and he's going to close that gap down. Team Swift dropping back, not wanting to be a part of the chase. Pretty smart for that Team Swift rider to drop back. He doesn't have a whole lot of teammates. He's got Cycle Sport. He's got Mike's Bikes, and Oak Valley. There's a rider up the road. It's a Tarun rider. He's a threat. He's already won 2 races this year. It's on the other bigger teams to chase him back at this point, or to send a rider across and ride with him. So that's why Jeff starts to chill. Everything's starting to clump up. You got riders on the right, Oak Valley. Little bit of bumping. Look at Bobby Terra. Bobby Terra, he already flatted. He flatted on lap 2. He rode this race really well. Better than I did. Man, look at that hair floppity flop. Bobby's gonna listen to this, and he's gonna. Hey, tell me how to pronounce your last name, right, Bobby? Second, give me some good objective criticism. So yeah, Jeff just letting everyone else do the work at this point. Don't know who that non-elite Mike's Bikes rider is. Non-elite kits look good this year. IMHO. Maybe dare say better than the elite team kits. I like that blue. I like that blue a lot. So Jeff kind of showing how you ride the downhill in the bigger group. It all kind of gets strung out. You might have some riders on the left. You might have some riders on the right. Coming in on the inside is Brian Larson of Stork. Or not Stork. Project California. I believe formerly Echelon Stork. Brian Larson, very experienced crit rider. Holy moly. Very experienced bike racer in general. Been there, done that. Wellspring of knowledge. Solid dude. We got some Dolce Vita riders now coming to the foray. That's the thing. It's there's teams that are expected to chase, kind of, and then teams that kind of get the pass, don't really ever have to think about chasing. Don't really ever think of... I'm never in a race and Dolce Vita's got to chase. Just never really do think of them in that capacity. But, if you're on Mike's Bikes, people are oh, you're on Mike's Bikes, you have to chase. And a lot of times they don't. And a lot of times they hold their fucking ground on that. Excuse my French. Jeff just coming up on Team Swift. Can't tell which rider that is, so I'm not going to assume anything. That's a fun corner. It's kind of got a dip in it that you're not really noticing on the... It's kind of like a little ramp. Shoots you up at the very end. Just total chill modes. 0 power right now. Heart rate's kind of high, but I think that's just by virtue of coming over the hill. It's dropping. Coasting downhill, it's kind of clumping up a little bit more. Justin is still off the front. Can't really tell by the footage. Don't know if he won any preems or anything. I was so gutted after the race. I didn't bother to go searching for Justin. I found Jeff, but Justin, miss you. Wish I talked to you after the race. You notice on the left, there's a little bit of a lip where the road kind of turns to the sidewalk. That was super confusing. For me, it was almost like a cross race in that corner because I was like riding on. I wasn't riding the drops. I was riding the hoods. I was kind of popping up on the corners and dropping down in. Yeah, that was a weird part of the course. That Dolce Vita rider taking the inside line there. That wasn't a bad line either. I think that's like there's so many lines that you could take into this bottom of this hill. I think it's a little less steep on the left side, but to get on the left side, you need to cross over anyhow. Looks like we have Robert just floating on back, the rider in all black. A little bit of very strung out at this point. Just through that turn, you can see exactly how strung out it is. We're about almost 30 minutes into this race. That point in the race, I think I had been bleeding through my eyes for so much of the race. I think at the 30-minute mark, I was like, okay, maybe I have a chance of finishing this. Riders going into the super tuck on the downhill. I don't know how I feel about it. I saw a rider do a super tuck, almost take out an Oak Valley rider's wheel right in front of me. Not going to name who it was, but I rolled around him, and I was just like, what are you thinking? Don't see the point of super tucking in a crit like that. You could just drink more beer, be a little bit heavier, and then you could bomb hills faster, or you could just track spin it at like 120 RPM and not waste that. It doesn't take that much energy to do that. Super tucking in a crit, yo, Doug. I mean, I watch a lot of bike racing. When you super tuck, that just shows that you only watch the Tour de France, because that's some real fad. That's a real fad move. Maybe have a little more bar to saddle drop and you don't need to super tuck. Super tuck's cool when you're on like a highway descent, the Tour of the Gila. That's where a super tuck comes in. Oh, super bunched up going to the bottom of this hill. Anyways, but I ran about super tucking. I want to finish this because I think it's very important. No super tucking crits. Like Pescadero road race, like, I guess you can, but it's kind of sketch. Long downhills at Tour de Gila. Yes. Highway descents. Yes. Like, then again, also think about, like, how fast you're going into super tuck. Like, if you're, like, spinning out, that's when you get into the super tuck. If you can still pedal, I don't see the point of the super tuck. Like, you're not saving that much energy going downhill with the tailwind. If you're still able to pedal and then just doing a super tuck. But I don't know. I think you should be a little bit more courteous when you go into the super tuck. Like, make sure no one's riding on your wheel, because you're just going to send that rear wheel. It's like standing up. You're just going to send that rear wheel right back into their spokes. Not necessarily the nicest gesture on planet Earth. Things are getting a little more clumped up. Jeff's kind of floating back at this point. His heart rate's going down. He's taking it a lot chiller. And ran about super tucks. Brian Larson on the right. You got Team Swift. You got that Davis rider that was up into the fold earlier. And Jeff just coming on the inside. Let's see him fight around Greg. Everyone's fighting for the landing pad. Jeff's not getting on the landing pad, but it looks like Brian Larson is and Sam Bassetti. And then, Jeff just riding the rough stuff. Getting boxed out by Sam, former winner of this race. Not able to take the landing pad that time. Coming on in the inside of that corner. Don't know who the tall Mike Spikes rider is. Dolce Vita coming up on the inside. Outside, sorry. Going into the bottom. Let's see what line he takes this time. Kind of coming right on the edge of that new asphalt, but then swinging far right. Then watch Jeff. He's going to slightly veer left. That's just kind of how you go up that hill. You go into the apex of the turn, you pop out, you take it to the right, and then you slowly drip back left, because I feel like it's not like you're really following the turn at that point. It's more like I think it's just a little less steep on the left side, so everyone veers to the left. Coming down and up and over the false flat into the back. Crest before going downhill. Robert Terrera on the right. Hey, props to Robert. You did much better in this race than I talked to you about it. You made it seem after the race that you weren't doing so hot, but I think you're doing pretty great there. But Oak Valley had a presence in this race. Good squad, good dudes. Altavello also had a presence. That club might be as old as this race. I'm not even sure. Formerly Webcor. Jeff just kind of getting pushed off the pad there, coming back on. And then taking the turn. Things are kind of slowing down here. The rider that was off the front for Turnley, Justin, just coming back into the fold. That's why things are slowing down. I think you can see him on the left on the other side of Sam Bassetti. Things are kind of slowing down, but that's dangerous because that catch the rider, things slow down, everyone looks at each other, and boom, an attack goes. And that is, that's when things get crazy. Going up the hill, still having to put out mad power. Just to get over. Multiple teams with riders at this point. They all look the same too. What's up with all these teams having riders that just look the same? There's a little more diversity in appearance on teams. I mean, you're all wearing the same kit and such, but you don't need to all have the same physique, same hair color, same skin tone. Mix it up a little bit. Team directors. I think the only time that I actually show up in this race anywhere near Jeff is coming up. I'll point it out. But man, I was fully cooked for this race. Every single year I've done this race hasn't been good for me. I love this race immensely. Grew up in Cupertino. Things kind of bunching up a little bit. I believe this is where Jeff's just getting bunched up. Got a Team Swift rider coming around him. Things slowing down. Justin Thompson right in front of him. And there, look, that's me. That's the only time you'll see. I'm ironically wearing a number 2. Never have got second place on this or been a part of a team where the riders won. Yeah, this is the only time that you're going to be able to see my thick boy thighs, my white saddle, and me struggling to get up this hill. Let's critique me getting up this hill. Okay, so how I take this hill is right about there. I downshift into the little ring, and then I spin up it. You notice how I don't start pedaling until I finally make contact with my gear, and then I'm able to get either 1 or 2 gear shifts. Jeff just coming over the top of me. Yeah, so I hit the bottom of the hill already in my little ring. This is my secret to how to do it. If you're thick, I big rigged it once by accident this time, and it was the only time I've done this race, and I felt like I could have possibly big rigged it multiple times up the hill, but every time I've big rigged it in the past, it's been an utter mistake, and I felt like it was almost going to be the end of my race. So when I hit the bottom of the hill, I downshifted into the little ring in the front, kind of like throw it in the middle of the cassette, and then hit it, coast up, and then stand out of the saddle, catch my gearing, start spinning, and then pop it 1 or 2 gears off the back of the cassette if I need to. But generally just kind of have it somewhere in the middle, but in the little ring in the front at the beginning of the downhill. That's how it works for me. If you have a better way of getting up that hill in the main field or tail gunning, please let me know. I know that the obvious answer is if that you're at the pointy end of affairs and you're trying to win this damn thing, you got to be in the big ring. Or maybe you need to be in the little ring. I wouldn't know. Don't ask me. Anyways, this race is a real classic race. I used to come to it as a kid. Last 2 years I've done it after the Tour of the Gila. And when I get back from the Tour of the Gila, I essentially don't ride all week long and then do this crit on Saturday. And I feel like I've done better in the past after that than I did this year. I did it as a Cat 3 a couple years ago and barely finished. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to be this season without Gila. Go do Gila. Gila is a great bike race. I'm hyping it. It makes you super fit. Also, the promoter's super sick, and they need more people coming out to that race from California. Also, if you want to give me a guest spot so I can go out and do Gila again, please do. Because I know all the best taco spots between here in the Bay Area and Silver City, New Mexico. Jeff just, coming over into the backside. Figs are still together. All the riders are together. Attacks are kind of coming at the front. Jeff's just kind of in the middle of the field. Got Leo Yip coming in on the inside of that one. Jeff once again being pushed off the pad. Brian Larson, he's just gonna he just shoves that Mike's rider right off the pad, takes the line he wants to take. If you're watching these videos and you see Brian Larson and you recognize Brian Larson, he is a great crit racer. His bike handling skills are amazing. Just take notes on the guy. I'm watching these videos right now, and the way he was able to effectively take the line he wanted to take and get around that Mike's bike rider with very little effort is just baffling me. He's a wizard of sorts. Not to toot his horn too much, but I'll toot his horn too much. Jeff coming up the hill, hitting that power. Ooh. Man, this is painful. How many times can you hypothetically do 900 to 1100 watts in an hour? That's like the how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop question. This race, you find out how many times you can do it, which is terrifying. It's a terrifying race. Robert Skinner there with the too long of socks. Don't know who that Lux Racing rider is. Lux, long-standing development team in the United States. Always had a classy get-up. Been there, done that sort of thing. Who was the Lux rider? Actually, gonna take the time. I'm not seeing it on the results. Jeff on the pad. Kind of getting sheared off. Making the call whether or not this whole race was about maintaining gaps. If you're in the field, oh, do I have to get around this rider? Can I just follow their wheel, or do I trust them to close it down? And that's a skill you have to learn as a bike, particularly as an American crit racer. You don't really find that out in road races so much. But it's like, do you trust to follow this wheel that they will close down the gap, or you'll have to get around them? And how do you get around them on the course? That's why crit racing is very popular in the United States, not so much in other parts of the world. I think it's a fundamental skill. I think that Americans should embrace their crit racing skill and learn to apply it around the world for utter domination. Jeff once again getting up that hill. Mike's rider right there. Don't give us numbers for this race on the registration, but Cameron Braunstein of Mike's Bikes, he did this race, and then I believe he went on to win the Wente Road Race the very next day. Yes, he did. Huge congratulations to Cam. Solid dude. See, that's, you could super tuck, or you could just do that. You could just drop your head really low. You can still gain a few wheel lengths. Brian Larson just coming up on the inside of Jeff. Immediately hopping on that wheel. Yeah, don't super tuck. Just arch your back. You'll be able to get a little more speed that way. In a crit, at least. So things have been ebbing and flowing. Nothing really has gone yet. Nothing has been established. We're going into the bottom of the hill. We got Altavelo. We got Project California. We got Mike's Bikes. We got Muscle Milk, Cycle Sport up in there. We got Tarun. We got a rider from Lux. It's a very diverse field at this point. Very. And I think the results of that varied field will shock you. Going up, going over, hit the false flat. Still got to work your way up until this point. Right about here, you got a couple of manhole covers you have to deal with, and then it starts dipping down. You're able to hit it into the big ring again. You got to keep going, though, and then you're going to make this right-hand turn. Right on Brian Larson's wheel. Jeff takes it up and over. Things are getting a little bit harder now. Jeff's having to do a little bit more effort. This is where the race is really starting to pick up. I wouldn't know where to attack on this race course if you held a gun to my head. I could not honestly tell you. I'd be like, the hill? So I just assume people get away on this race because they're skinny and they can get up hills quick, which I cannot. Diving down in. Brian Larson, he's gonna let that gap go. He's gonna let Jeff close it for whatever. Oh, I think that's Brian flatting actually. Yeah, so Brian gets a flat right there. Jeff's gonna go around him. He's gonna close up that gap, sew it up. We got multiple Mike Spikes riders here. I'm reading the notes that at this point a break of 3 is going without Tarun. And that break is going to have Luke Lampretti, Team Swift. It's going to have Robert Skinny. Robert's still in it. Maybe the gap hasn't gone. Maybe Robert bridges at this point. Watching. Oof. Just so much effort over and over again to get up over that hill, stay in the front of things. Okay, so there's... doesn't look like that establish of a gap. You can see Justin Thompson up there for Tarun. Got a couple of Dolce Vita riders. Robert's up towards the front for Oak Valley. Let's see. This part of the video I can kind of tell if there's a gap. Jeff just kind of trying to work his way up to Justin. Not really having to do anything to do it, though. Coming on the inside. He's got a Mike's rider. And they're going to kind of fight for that pad. The Mike's rider takes it. Jeff slots in right behind them. Got Robert trying to get his way onto the pad. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. A little... coming in close, coming around Justin, taking this turn. Boom goes the dynamite. And up the hill they go again. Justin putting in a big dig. I think at this point, riders are up the road. Can't really tell from the footage. But I know for a fact that Mike's has missed it. Tarun has missed it. Specialized Cycle Sport has also missed it. There goes another little gap of riders. Dolce Vita, I think, has also missed it at this point, too. Really wish that they didn't, do 2 different results for the Cat 2s and the Cat 1s, because it's making my life really difficult trying to record this. Trying to figure out which riders have made it and which riders haven't into this little move. So that looks like Jeff is towards the pointy end of things. So I think Jeff's willing to work at this point, to try to sew things up, chase this break back. I believe that there's a Team Swift rider up the road, so he's just dead weight. There's Mike's up there. There's Muscle Milk. There's Dolce Vita. All kind of realizing that they've missed this and that they have to be some sort of impetus to chase. Whether or not they're going to decide to follow through with that, and if they're going to try to bridge, that's a big question mark on our end. Going up the hill, having to give it good. So, yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's going to try to attack up the hill. So you're all kind of going a certain amount at the same speed. And then, so for attacks-wise, you could maybe attack on the hill, but everyone's kind of going the same, and then drain yourself. Right about here is a really good spot to attack. Everyone's kind of looking at each other, being like, all right, who's going to do the substantial amount of the chasing? Jeff's going to give a decent amount of an effort. Then he's going to let Mike's roll through, try to get them to chase some. Doesn't really look like they're doing that big of a chase going into the downhill section. Jeff's just kind of sitting wheel. On this Mike's Bikes rider, who I can't tell who it is, because you all look the same. Onto the landing pad. Coming through the finish. Don't really know what the preem counter is. They've got 8 to go on the lap card. Dolce Vita is going to come through. Realize that Mike's not really given that big of a chase. You could just see the power go up on that one as Dolce Vita pulls through in front of Mike's. But when they do that, they kind of set up the opportunity for Mike's to counter. Bobby coming through for Oak Valley. Got that Mike's Bikes rider there. 2 of them, actually. They're ready to make a counter. And here they go. We're going to have one Mike's Bikes rider lead it out. Dolce Vita is going to sit up, knowing that a Mike's rider is right behind them. We got Timmy Bauer coming through. He's going to mark that move. Robert's not really in the position to. Team Swift is... Oh, man. That Team Swift rider just went for it. Saltzman. Jeff's on Saltzman's wheel. The first Mike's Bike rider is dropped off. He's delivered his rider through the hill. Now it's the Mike's riders, the other Mike's Bikes guy. He has to do the bridge. Don't know who's behind Jeff, but he's got Saltzman in front of him. He's got Timmy Bauer in front of him also. Looks like Timmy Bauer's off on the chase. Saltzman comes through. Sam Bizzetti just rails that corner like it's nobody's business. Jeff kind of sits up. Mike's is going to chase now one of their riders in Sam Bizzetti. I don't get it. I don't get what this guy's doing. Hypothetically, if a Mike's rider is up there and Sam Bizzetti is chasing it, he's just... Unless he's going to immediately make a counter, which I don't think he is, he's just marking Sam Bizzetti. All of this is obviously driving up the pace of the chase, but it's not a really concerted effort of the chase. Therefore, it's kind of... Once they all come back together, it's all going to kind of clunch up, and then the gap for the main group is going to kind of continue to grow. Looks like it's Sam Bizzetti. So there's a group up the road a little bit. Field's looking pretty shelled at this point. Super reduced. I mean, you got to think, like, at this point, everyone's just tired. There's a gap of 3 riders up the road. Mike Spike's not chasing. Mike Spikes has made it abundantly clear that they're just going to try to bridge. It's getting too late for that. It's getting too late for the chase. Everyone's just kind of looking at each other, wondering how and why they shit the bed. Sam Bassetti doesn't have any teammates. He did his move to try to get onto things. It didn't work. He got chased down immediately. But he's still going to hold that line. You know, he's still going to ride and give a good finish on it. Same with Jeff. Just coming up on 6 laps to go. I think right about this point, Justin Thompson, part of the chase. Chase are just riders shelling each other and attacking each other. Is that a Dolce? It's a lapped Dolce rider, I assume. I think right about when I was hitting the bottom of this, my cleat popped out of my pedal. I got separated, and then I had to finish the race almost crying because I got gapped and then finishing a Lobo Solo off the back. It was a rough day for me. Ooh, looked at Robert. He just exploded. That's what he was telling me about after the race. Jeff having to close that gap, putting in quite a bit of effort to do that. Look at that gap go. I mean, if there's a teammate up there, nah, he's going to close it. Oh, God, that's so killer. After 57 minutes of racing, having to do a pull like that, that's just excruciating. Jeff, kudos. That was a fucking effort having to come around Robert right there. Into this downhill section. Sam Bassetti, Jason Saltzman, A. Volo, a couple of Mike Spikes riders. Ooh, Sam just coming over onto that line, pushing that Mike's rider off. 5 laps to go. Can't tell what lap. I can't tell if that's a lap rider. I think it is. Coming over that corner. Davis rider that was up in the fold earlier. Done a very good job to get himself back up towards the front of things. The end of the race. Even if he hasn't made the break at this point. Only 3 riders up the road. Well worth it to get up towards the pointy end of things and try to position yourself for a decent finish in this race. And he's going to go. Look at that. Kind of hits a brick wall. Everyone's going at it. Everyone's hitting a brick wall at this point. 60 minutes of doing this hill is no funny business. We got Justin Thompson on the left for Tarun Elite. We got Mike Spikes. Remember, Mike Spikes didn't really chase. They wanted to do a counter and bridge up to the leading winning group, but failed to do so and then didn't really offer up a chase. Not that they necessarily had to, since everyone thinks that Mike Spikes has to do everything all the time. Coming up, I think this is 4 laps to go at this point. That house on the right, that's the house party that I love so dearly every single year. Good job, guys. Coming up onto the landing pad. Couldn't see the laps to go card there. Justin Thompson getting himself in a really good position for the finish. Hour mark of racing. Jeff still towards the front. Mike's is going to kind of come around. Dolce also coming up. A Volo, Sam Bassetti for KHS. Elevate. Got Josh Carling on the left for Oak Valley. Timmy Bowers up there. Still, after almost an hour of racing, being able to do 900 watts up that hill, it's just fucking amazing that all these guys did it, over and over again. Really showing how hard the P1-2 field is. The fact that so many 2 riders did well in this race really shows that it is kind of a specialist race. It's just not based off of pure, being a Cat 1 or whatever. The fact that, like, a very talented Cat 2 rider that is a good climber can show up to this crit and get a good result. It's a pretty specific race that suits a specific sort of rider. It's no fluke that some of these Cat 2s are able to do so well at this race. Coming up into the finishing straight. How many laps to go do we have? Oh, we have rubber back. We're back up towards the pointy end of things with 3 laps to go. Things are getting strung out. Jeff's having to do quite a bit of effort just to stay up to the fold. He is probably 10 riders back or so, 13 riders back. Man, 3 laps to go. That's just hell. I mean, I was living my own little personal feel sorry for myself shindig at the back of this race anyways. Dang. Look at him go. 1,200 watts just to stay... Nearly 1,200 watts just to stay up towards the front. Timmy kind of popping off on there. Having to hold it at around 600 to 700 watts. His heart rate's coming up too. Just based off of how long he's having to hold that power for. Over that hill, through the little downhill section, back onto the backside. Bombing that corner. Looks like there's a little bit of a split at the front of affairs. Jeff rolling up on the inside. Got to pick his line still, though. Can't just come up on the inside going into this downhill. He's going to slot right behind that Mike Spikes rider. Catch that draft on the landing pad. Super safe. 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go. Ding, 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 ding. Or 1 lap to go. That sort of craziness. Things are so strung out. Riders have been shelled utterly.
Jeff's just kind of getting swarmed at this point, trying to hold his position. Comes tight on the inside. He's got a rider on his left. He's got a rider on his right. Just trying to get over that hill. Given a whole hell of a lot of power to do so. He's got two Mike Spikes riders in front of him. Saltzman dropping off. Not having anything more. Got a bit of a gap there. He's going to have to close it regardless of who's behind him. That's just what you have to do with 2 laps to go. He's going to wait to do it until the downhill. Don't know who the rider is in front of him. You know, this group of 3 is up the road. Everyone's still racing for 4th, but this is a pretty still hotly contested race for 4th. Jason Saltzman back into the picture. I mean, yeah, everyone's still going 1,100 watts up this damn hill for 4th place. I think this is last lap. I might be wrong. I might have miscounted that. So Jeff's looking for his positioning at this point. He's going to come up, right, take that corner perfectly. Hold his line. Think about which wheel he's going to pop around and when he's going to pop around it. And so he's trying to get around. He's coming up on the inside, passes one rider, passes Mike's rider. He's right up alongside Jason Saltzman. Coming up on the inside of Specialized Rider. Oh, he fucks it up. Excuse my French. He hit the actual curb there. Loses a ton of speed and momentum. Still has to do a ton of power. Oh, heartbreak. He messed that corner up at the worst possible time, taking it so perfectly throughout this race. A bunch of riders just able to shoot around him as he loses speed. Hit that corner of that curb. He's going to come around. This Mike's rider, who's already done his job, that's when you know you're kind of in trouble, when you see riders trailing off and you're coming around them. I think this Mike's rider's content to sit up. Jeff's going to just pass them. The real race is up front. Jeff, heartbreak, dying right here. Still pedaling, going downhill. Not anymore. He's going to take the corner. I think, just letting people roll through, knowing damn well that he messed up his opportunity going into the corner of that hill. Heartbreak. Absolute heartbreak for Jeff. He's had so many great races this year. To mess it up in the last corner like that must have been heartbreaking. Only major feels for him. Yeah, so you get to see. This is a good example of how important it is in most races that you do, that you find lines that you like and you stick with them, and you kind of pre-plan which line you're going to take when you really want to go for it, and the sort of risk that you have to take when you take a line that you're not used to with only a few laps to go. Is it better to get around that person that you know is a ton of bricks but is holding their positioning pretty well? Can you get around them later? Or are you going to take a risky line and risk hitting a curb like kind of Jeff did and slow down, and then that person that maybe didn't have the fitness at that moment, in your perception, they end up passing you just because you took the bad line that you hadn't been taking all race long. Pretty good learning experience. It's unfortunate that'll happen to Jeff. Jeff's pretty good at picking his lines. I've been working on him. He's been teaching me how to do sprint lead outs, and he tells me really well. Like, he's really good at reading the wind and really good at reading the pavement. So, it's like we all make mistakes. Can't blame them. Shout out to Luke Lampretti for Team Swift, that break of 3 win, and he ended up winning. Kid is, I heard the kid's 15 years old, and he won one of the biggest, most classic crits in Northern California. That's awesome. I'm just looking at pictures of Cat's Hill. Cat's Hill was won by junior Greg LeMond, riding for Della Santa back in the day. Luke Lampretti, is he the next Greg LeMond winning Cat's Hill? Maybe. So huge congratulations to him and his Team Swift teammates. Thank you so much for watching. Gas Station Food Cyclist commentary on a NorCal Cycling Vids video. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Tell your friends if they're interested in Northern California, Nevada bike racing. And have a good rest of your evening or day, depending on when you're watching this. Thanks. Bye.